Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 4 of Shell by Shell, a series where we go through all of the Hack the Box starting point machines so you can learn how to ethically hack on your own. This time around, it is Redeemer, which is box 4 of 4 in the Tier 0 tier. Now, like I mentioned in the first episode, there are VIP boxes, but to keep accessibility for everybody, we're just going to end here before moving on to the next tier. So, Redeemer. As always, we're going to be running our OpenVPN file with sudo openvpn and then the path to our VPN file. We scroll down. As soon as we see initialization sequence completed, that's how you know we're ready to start attacking the box. I've also already spawned our IP, which is 10.129.128.217. And again, this is on my 4th desktop on my Kali machine. I just like to keep things that are miscellaneous, like the Hack the Box page and my VPN, on the 4th desktop so it doesn't get in the way. Over here on my first desktop, I've already opened a terminal, and I'm going to make a new directory called Redeemer. I'll cd into that directory, and I'll run our nmap scan. -sc, -sv, and then we will paste our IP of 10.129.128.217. But this is strange. We're not getting any ports open. It says it scanned all 1,000 ports, but none of them are open. Well, let's use our ping functionality to make sure that the box is up. And the box is definitely up. It's pinging. It's coming back to us. So this is very strange. To me, this looks like whatever port we're looking for isn't in the top 1,000 reports. Remember from the last episodes that nmap only scans the top 1,000 common ports. So these are going to be ports like HTTP, SSH, SMB, things that we've seen in the past few videos. It's possible that whatever service and port that this box is running isn't in that top 1,000 ports. So what can we do? Well, nmap has a functionality where you can specify the ports or the port range to scan. In this case, if I do -p-, that's going to scan all 65,000 ports. So if I run this command, I wish that there was a verbose mode to show you all the ports it was scanning, but it's no longer scanning just the top 1,000 common ports. Instead, it's scanning every port from 1 to 65,000. As you can see, instead of the common 999 closed ports, we see 65,534 because there are 65,535 ports that are possible to be scanned, and there is currently one open, therefore leaving us with 65,534 closed ports. So that functionality, the nmap-p- is how you're going to scan every port that is possible on a machine. And that's usually what my go-to is if none of the top 1,000 ports are responding. As you can see, we get a hit. So 6379, definitely not a default port by any means, but it is Redis. And if you're anything like me, you have no idea what the heck Redis is. So in scenarios like this, and it's very common, and this is a great box as an example to show this off, but there's going to be technologies that you don't know. There's going to be machines and systems and services and web frameworks that you're unfamiliar with. And that is really the beauty of ethical hacking and offensive security. Every day you're going to see something new. Not every client is going to have the same infrastructure. And when that happens, you're going to have to turn to your best friend Google and search, what is Redis? And thankfully we have AI now where it can give you a quick overview that it's an open source in-memory data storage used as a database, cache, message broker, and streaming engine. It's known for speed and ability to handle various data structures. Okay, so now we know it's a database, and similar to any database or file share, we can probably connect to it. Kali Linux has a ton of built-in functionalities and tools that we can use. So I love using the tab command. So if I search Redis and press tab, we see we have many options here. We've got Redis benchmark, Redis check, Redis CLI, and Redis server. CLI is probably what we're going to go for because it stands for command line interface, and that's what we're in right now. A terminal is a command line interface as opposed to a GUI, which is a graphical user interface. So Firefox is a GUI, CLI is a terminal. So if we click Redis CLI here, and we do a -h, like with any command, we're going to get to scroll down our options and see our syntax. So Redis CLI, options, and then any arguments. -h is a host name, so that's an IP. That's probably the option we're going to go with here. Port, the default is already 6379, so I don't think there's anything we need to deal with here. We have no user or password, so I guess we're going to have to see if we can connect anonymously like we have with FTP and SMB in the past. It seems to be a common theme across these tier 0 boxes where we identify a service and then we can connect to it anonymously in order to gain our flag. So let's give it a go. Let's run redis CLI -h and then our IP. Redis CLI -h and then our IP. Click enter, and by the looks of it, it looks like we were able to connect. Now that we're connected, I can type a question mark, which will get us help about any Redis commands. And in this case, we can do help and then a command to list help on a specific command, groups, topics, or tabs, and then quit to exit. So not particularly helpful. And this is common with CLIs. So what I'll do, I'll bring back Firefox. I'll say Redis command cheat sheet. And I do this a lot of the times with SQL even as well. SQL or SQLite, the syntax is so close, but different enough where you're not going to be able to remember every single SQL or SQLite command. So just bringing up a cheat sheet and looking at the commands is going to be extra important. So we scroll down here. We ignore this because we are already connected with our host name, strings, and keys. So keys seem important. Getting the name of a key could be important later. Let's get some info and some intel on what we're working with. I want to see if there's any info. So info section. What if I just type info? And it looks like it prints out everything. So let's give this a scroll. So we have server, so we have the Redis version, which could be important if 5.0.7 is vulnerable to any publicly known exploits. We talked about this a few episodes ago, but the reason why knowing version numbers is so crucial and so important is because there are going to be public exploits for that particular version number. As a proof of concept, let's search Redis 5.0.7 exploit. You can see there's a bunch of CVEs that come up. So even Rapid7, these people make Metasploit, which we're going to touch on in a few episodes, but they have a link to the vulnerability and it leads to denial of service. And then there's like I said, there's just a bunch of CVEs and a bunch of vulnerabilities that come from knowing a version number of a particular software. So moving down here, we have just a bunch of information about the service. This isn't really important. There is one connected client, which is us. Keep scrolling. That's just about memory, so nothing too important for us. Persistence, I don't think anything matters there. Stats, I don't think we're too worried about stats. Replication, CPU, and key space. This is really what we're looking for. So key space is how many keys are in a given database or in a given section. And we see there's only one database instance, which is DB0. I believe that they refer to this as an index. So let's scroll down and see if we can, how to select that index or how to sort of get into that database. In SQL, I know it's use. You can use DB. I control F here and search database. Let's highlight all. It's not doing a great job of highlighting. So not a great website here. JSON, scroll back up. Not very helpful. Well, let's Google it. How to select or use Redis DB0. Select. Okay. I think that might just be the command. Select the Redis logical database having the specified 0-base numeric index. Okay, so it's 0-base, which is why it is database 0 instead of something like database 1. New connections always use database 0. So perhaps select DB0. Maybe it's just 0. Okay. That is promising. So now that we are in here, what can we do with the keys? So we saw keys earlier, and we see that this index has 4 keys. So now let's find out how to list Redis keys. Keys. They make it really straightforward, I guess. So keys returns all keys matching pattern. So that to me is, yeah, keys pattern. So the pattern can be a regex pattern, I believe. But for most for most database languages, it's going to be the star here, and which represents everything. So we're going to query for all of the keys in the database 0 here, in the 0th index. And we see that there are 4. So we have temp, storage, num, and flag. Obviously, we're going to be going for the flag here. So my next Google search is going to be how to print out Redis keys. Scroll down. Not a quick answer. Guess we'll look at Stack Overflow. Keys will list out all keys stored. Man, I just love pop-ups. So it'll list all of the keys stored, but that doesn't really give us a great answer. I want to print the actual contents of the key. And while this may seem like a very inefficient method and an even more so inefficient video, you're essentially watching me Google, but this is part of the process. And this is a fantastic box to show this off on, because before this box, I didn't know what Redis was. And this is a great way to reintroduce myself to Redis, but also introduce everyone here to the importance of Googling and the importance of, and it doesn't even have to be Google. It can be ChatGPT or your AI of your choice, right? Just trying to ask it and understand, okay, this is the technology I'm dealing with. How can I do this? So the next step here is going to be printing out this flag to the screen. And going back to the first article we opened with the cheat sheet, we scrolled past this earlier on, but get the key. So you're getting the contents of the key here, which is exactly what we need. So get, and then it sort of autofills, which is nice, but instead of the key, we're going to be doing the key name, which is flag. And we are able to finally retrieve our flag. So that wraps up the challenge. Now let's go to the answers. Which TCP port is open on the machine? This is 63 something. Let's check one more time, because again, this is a new technology. I do not know what it is. I don't think we actually outputted the file. So 6379. Go back to 4 and 6379. Which service is running on the port that is open? That is Redis. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. That'd be embarrassing if it was like Redis or something and I was pronouncing it wrong the entire time. What type of database is Redis? Choose from the following options. So it's either in-memory or traditional, and we read in the AI overview that it is an in-memory database. Which command line utility is used to interact with the Redis server? And this was when we typed in Redis in our Kali machine and pressed tab a bunch of times, we were able to find redis-cli, which stands for command line interface. Which flag is used with the Redis command line utility to specify the hostname? We did this on accident when I was looking for help, so I typed -h, and -h is actually for specifying the hostname, which we see here. Once connected to the server, which command can be used to obtain the information and statistics about the Redis server? We got this from the cheat sheet, but we can use the info command to perform and sort of gather information, and that's how we found out about our next question here, which is the version. It was 5.0.7, I believe. And we also found out about the database. So the desired database was in the index of 0, so DB0, and how many keys there were, which is the next two questions. So the command to select the desired database is select, and there were 4 keys in the database, if you recall. So we scroll up here, right here. So key space is the big hitter here when it comes to the information. So we have the index of 0, that's where our database is living, and there's 4 keys within that database, which we see here. Which command can we use to obtain all of the keys in the database? That's when we listed out all of the keys instead of actually printing the key to the screen. So this would be keys with the star. Yeah, keys with the star is, the star is very common in most things technology. It is pretty universal in the sense that it represents everything. So we're taking all of the keys in that index 0 database and we are printing them out to the screen. And then finally, we were able to use the get command, similar to both SMB and FTP. The get command remains true, where we can get the key and then obtain our root flag. And that will be it for Redeemer. Not only is this the end of the video, but it's also the end of Tier 0. Next week, we're going to come back and start tackling the Tier 1 boxes. And first, we're going to do appointment. So I'm very excited that we managed to make it through the first 4 boxes. It's been 4 weeks of fun, if you ask me, and I hope you enjoyed this machine. And I want you to come away with the main message of this video being Googling something is going to be your best friend when it comes to offensive security, ethical hacking, and pretty much anything IT in general. There is no chance you're going to be able to remember everything you need to all the time, every time. So adopting good practices and Googling things or using AI, using ChatGPT is crucial for being good in this industry. And although it may have looked like I was just fumbling around for 5 minutes, sure I was, but it eventually ended up and landed on the answers I needed to get the flag. So ensure that you're using Google, ensure that you're doing your research on the new technologies that you're unfamiliar with, so you're able to succeed every time when doing offensive security. But that wraps up Redeemer. I will see you guys next week when we start the Tier 1 boxes. I'm super excited. Thank you for making it this far and supporting the Shell by Shell series. But I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next week.